So our next agenda item is a panel discussion with invited guests, and we titled the panel Building for Success, Jumpstarting Your Program, and How Academic Success Looks in Your Early to Mid-Career. And we know that many of you are just starting their academic career, and you may wonder, what do I need to do to be successful? What do I plan to achieve in my first 2 years, 4 years, etc.? And we thought we'll invite some early to mid-career academics that are just a few years ahead of you who just went through all of this. And we want to hear their personal stories, their personal reflections on questions like, how did I start building my program? What were my challenges? What were my hurdles along the way? Were there any aha moments where things finally clicked and made sense? And what they may have done differently if they knew what they know now. So very appreciative of our panelists to share their experiences with you all. And our panelists are Katie Lowe. Katie is an academic coordinator who is with the statewide Fire Network program. And I think she's been with us for almost 3 years. And our second panelist is Clebson Goncalvez. Clebson is a diversified ag advisor in Lake and Mendocino County. And he also has been with us for just about 3 years. And then our third panel member is Natalie Price. Natalie is a community nutrition and health advisor serving Los Angeles and Orange County. So thanks for coming up. And Natalie has been with us for almost 8 years. And Natalie is also serving on the peer review committee. So she's read a lot of PR dossiers recently and knows how success looks for early career academics. And the way we're going to do this panel is we're going to do about a 10-minute short presentation by all the panelists. And then we have some time for an open discussion with the panelists from the audience. So with that, I think, Clebson, you're first, if you want to get us started.
Be on the mic as well?
What was that?
Do I have to be on this mic? Or?
If they can hear you, you can probably speak freely. So.
Everybody can hear me, right? All right, thank you, Daniel. Again, my name is Clebson Goncalvez. I'm a diversified agriculture advisor, and I cover Lake and Mendocino County. Just before I start, I've been in like a rush weeks recently with a newborn, exactly 13 days ago. Yeah, I'm in paternal leave now, but it is a pleasure to come here and meet all you guys and share a little bit about my program. And this morning was a little rough as well. I got my car broken on the middle. The way I was like 30-minute drive, 25 miles from my office, and my car broke. I have to come back and ask for a county vehicle to make the trip. And I missed one meeting with one advisor. I had a lunch meeting with one advisor I have to cancel, but I make it here, and that's good.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. So just a little bit about, myself. I'm original from Brazil. Primarily, I born and was raised in the middle of the jungle in the rainforest in the Amazonian area. This is my sister and myself. Probably was like 2 or 3 years old. And I grew up in a house very similar to this one in a very poverty community. But I'm very thankful and grateful because I have the opportunity to go to college and get my undergrad, master, and PhD. And I moved to US in 2017 to get a second master degree in Auburn University in Alabama. And also I spent 3 years in Virginia Tech as a postdoc before I start my position here as a UC farmer advisor. So a little bit about my program. I started in July 2022. It's getting close to 3 years, and I cover primarily Lake County and Mendocino County. And probably you guys heard about that. What's your first responsibility? It's collect your survey, know your clientele, talk with your growers. And actually, it was a great opportunity for me to meet several different growers like in different category like small farm, medium farm, and large farm. Because I'm a diversified ag, I kind of like cover pretty much any crop in my county. But working with the small clientele, it's been a very great pleasure, because I seen them as they was never served before as UC Corporation Extension in Lake, because the previous device was more cover large crops. But with the new shift on the administrator, we kind of like been more focused in target new clientele. So just a quick review of what my clientele looks like in Lake and in Mendocino County. Primarily, I cover fruits and nuts, but I have like a mix with fruits, vegetable, and nuts. You can see like primarily like 50% of my clientele is the mid-sized growers with fruits and nuts. I have about close to 30% vegetable growers, and kind of like mixed with fruit trees and nuts. Vegetable growers and others. The others more like PCAs and other organizations that complete the survey and that are being collect data. Again, primarily they are organic growers, more than 50%. And as you can see, more than almost 50% is less than 10 acres. It's a very small farm. I have a lot of growers that have less than 1 acre actually. And they grow actually in kind of like in the backyard, and they sold the crops on the farming market. And a few of the concern, because I cover multiple crops, and I'm very focused on the IPM program, and I think it was very interesting collect data, what kind of the primary concern they have. And this data was very interesting when I collect, because 42% of my clientele, they never receive service from the UC Corporation Extension, and its primary was the small farm. That I think was the most important data I collect through my survey. So how to start a successful program? I believe each of you guys have a different strategy, have a different program. This is more my experience, but it's interesting to share with you guys. First, based on your survey, you have to know your clientele. No only email them or call. Go visit. Like in my case, my office is in Lake County, and I have clients like in Mendocino, like on the coast area. Sometimes I take 3-4 hours to drive just to meet one single grower. But it's very important to do that, because they're gonna know you, they're gonna trust you, because if you just call or just email, then they will never actually meet you in person. And sometimes you have to take like 1 day round trip to meet one single grower, but it is important to go and visit and know what the challenges they have, because each farm have a different situation. And sometimes like on your early career, it's very hard to measure the impact that you have on your growers, but some small things that you do sometimes make a big difference in a farm. This is just a few examples. I have like one of my growers, she got fired in 2019 in her property, and she pretty much lost everything, and she was like desperately looking for funding. And she came to me in my first year asking for help with me to try apply for grant for her, review the grant, like simple things that you do, take like a couple hours to review her proposal, help her to go through the application. And when she got the grant and she come to you and thank you, that make a big difference. And in some situation, you just like email and say, hey, there is a grant available, and I think you fit on that grant, go and apply. And the guy come and apply, they get the funding, and they call you or message you and thank you. And that kind of stuff is hard to get like measurement for your dossier, but this make a big difference actually on the farm, because a grant that a person that's struggling and get a grant and able to rebuild the farm back, it's a very big deal for that specific grower. Second thing, you have to know your ecology. Specifically, like in my case, I'm a diversified ag. I don't work for a specific crop or a specific discipline. I work with pretty much all the crop in my counties, and I cannot actually answer all the questions. I don't know everything. My background was in one specific thing. I'm a essential weed scientist, but I got questions on entomology, plant pathology, crop selection, variety selection, even crop that I never heard about. people try to grow in my area. And to answer those questions, you have to know your college, because you don't have all the answer, but sometimes when you contact them, when you know them, you know what they're doing, you're gonna get help from them to answer the question and start to build your program. And how to do that? I think like the collaborate tools and the work group, it's very important for you to know who is your college and how to find them. For example, like I've been involved in many different work groups, but when you get involved, you can go on the members and you're gonna see all the people that's involved in the same work group. You can reach out then. And since the day one I started my work here, I've been reached out so many advisors, specialists. I think I sent over 50 emails for different advisors, and I got a lot of good response. You're not gonna get a response from everybody, but if you get a response from everybody, you're gonna get too busy as well. But I've been very thankful with my college. I get always good feedback. They always helping me to respond to questions and things that I still learn. And third, if you want to like build your program and if you want to raise funds, you have to work in collaboration with no-profit organization. Like I've been established a very good collaboration with RCD, CDFA, Farm Bureau, Lake and Mendocino Farm Bureau, DPR, because I work a lot with pesticide. I've been established great collaboration with DPR, CAF. They provide a lot of funding and opportunity for the small farm, NCO. And also with industry, it's very important you establish this contact with the industry. For example, California, pear board, walnut board, and also chemical industry. I've been working a lot of pesticide. It's really great to establish those collaborations to bring funding for your program. So, I think I would say, I don't know if that's a hard moment in my first year, because I got so excited in my first year and I was trying like apply for grants, and because I came from a postdoc position and I was very trained to write grants. And in my first year, I wrote like 5 grant proposals, and I was expect like, oh, God, send at least 1, and I got 4. And I got like so busy. In my first year, and I established some collaboration my first year with other advisors, and I kind of like, my program is speeded up so fast in my first year that I still are able to handle it, but my recommendation, just don't do that, go slow. Otherwise you get extremely busy in your first year. But it is good, I think, up to you guys. So one of the things that I love in my program is kind of like this diversity to work in collaboration with different specialists, different advisors, again, like in different fields. This is how my program looks like today. This was like a post that I put recently on the regional meeting, where I've been working primarily with integrated weed management, but I cover other pest management like disease and insect. I've been working with emerging technology as well, a little bit with droning to release insect. Also with some company with hyper-precise spray technology that we hope to reduce more than 95% of pesticide application. But it's still new technology being tested a lot. And I work a little bit with variety selection and water conservation. This is how my program looks like right now. If you want like a copy of this, want to study a little more, I have a couple copies in my backpack. If you want, I can hand one for you. You can study a little more about my work, and you also can visit the web page. And again, life is great. I love my job. I love the county I live. I think it's one of the beautiful county we have in California. This is like a view from my house deck. It is great, and I have a beautiful family. Yeah, I thank God for everything in my life. Life is good. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Clebson. We'll go with Katie next, and then we'll hold our questions for the panel discussion, okay?
I think I'm going to follow in Clebson's footsteps and not use the mic. So can folks hear me okay? Awesome. So as Daniel mentioned, I'm Katie Lowe. I am the statewide coordinator for the UC Fire Network. I am based in the UC Cooperative Extension offices in Placer and Nevada counties, so up in Auburn and Grass Valley, if you know where those places are. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here with you all today, the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about the Fire Network and my programming, and hopefully answer more of your questions. So just a little bit about me and my background. I like to burn things like a lot of people in fire, but my background is really in forestry and fire ecology. Before starting with UCANR a little over 2 years ago now, I was pursuing an undergraduate degree in forestry from Berkeley and then a master's in forestry from Berkeley, focusing on fire ecology and management in the Sierra Nevada. And yeah, this is me in the woods. My program really, in addition to working with our statewide fire advisor and fire network team, my programs are really based on a few pillars: wildfire preparedness in the built environment, so in homes and communities, and also in the wildlands; vegetation and fuel management, so things like prescribed fire, which you can see here; targeted grazing, so goat and sheep grazing; and then also forest management; and then lastly, workforce development, which is really to make sure that we have a robust fire and forestry workforce that we can tackle all these big land management issues. So, as I mentioned, I am the coordinator of the Fire Network. We are a relatively new statewide program. I think you went over those earlier today, from Cooperative Extension, focused solely on wildfire and fire-related issues across the state. We have interdisciplinary expertise. Our experts are fundamental researchers in fire science and ecology, home hardening, defensible space, prescribed fire, grazing, and much more. And you may be wondering, who is a part of the Fire Network? Well, we consist of our specialists on our UC campuses. We have our core team of cooperative extension advisors and staff in our local counties. And then we also have our broad networks of volunteers and our other UC organizations like the UC Master Gardeners, for example. And at the core of our network is our team of 7 advisors, myself and our staff. Generally, our Fire Network has programming in 4 key areas: empowering science-informed land stewardship, which involves our work with prescribed fire, fuel management, natural resource and ecosystem stewardship in general. We also have the community resilience piece, which is working in, again, both urban and rural environments, working in the built environment, hardening homes, creating defensible space, other elements of fire preparedness. We also have post-fire recovery and restoration, so that's doing research and monitoring in novel post-fire environments across the state. It's also doing post-fire forest resilience workshops, which is led by Susie Coker and her team. And then other built environment fire issues, like helping communities in Los Angeles, for example, recover from the recent fires down there. And then finally, our other pillar is in workforce development. So again, we run a lot of statewide programs around workforce development, like the California State Certified Burn Boss program. We have the Forestry and Natural Resources Career Mentorship Program, and the Women's Prescribed Fire Training Exchanges, or WTREX. So in my job, I work with these core folks here and other advisors on programs and projects in all of those 4 key areas. So it's really cool. As Clebson pointed out, a part of his job is to really diversify his knowledge and his skill set. So I get to dabble in a little bit of everything, from being out in the field to being in front of a computer, learning how to crunch data, but then also learning about home construction and design, something that I was not familiar with as a vegetation ecologist by training. But also, I was in a unique position when I first started my job in September of 2022. The Fire Network had not yet formed. I believe it formed in May of 23. So there was a somewhat large waiting period where I was an academic coordinator, where you're supposed to be coordinating things. I was reading the ebook and I was like, okay, I have to be setting up, evaluation metrics and stuff for programs, but these programs didn't really exist yet. So in the absence of that sort of statewide coordination activity, I still got to network and meet with a lot of the fire advisors. We were all new at the time, which is really cool. And I think unusual from an extension standpoint when an entire cohort of advisors and staff are hired on at the same time to work on a specific issue. But I really took it upon myself to look for mentors and peers in my local communities in Placer and Nevada County to learn more about extension programming, research programming, and actually get involved with that myself in those communities. Particularly because there is not a forestry or fire advisor in Placer County at all, so I kind of stepped up with permission from my county director at the time to fulfill that need for our organization. But also I firmly believe to be a successful coordinator for a new statewide program, I really needed to understand what it took to run successful research and extension programs so I could help our new advisor cohort grow and establish their programs at the same time. So as I mentioned, we all kind of started at the same time, which put us in a really unique and good spot, I think, from an academic coordinator's perspective of needing to annually evaluate our statewide clientele base, because we all got to band together, myself and 3 new fire advisors and former forestry advisor Ryan Tompkins in Plumas County. We all came together to collaborate on a statewide fire needs assessment because we saw the value in having a cohesive statewide data set that targeted both residents and resource professionals in our communities across the state. And there wasn't really a data set like this that existed at the time. And to do this, we surveyed about 1,000 residents across the state and about 340, I think, resource professionals. I will say, and one of the aha moments for myself was learning how to run a statewide survey like this. Again, as a vegetation ecologist, you're not really used to surveying people and going through the IRB process. And so Vikram, who I think is in the room over there, he hosts a lot of trainings that were really helpful about needs assessments and all that kind of stuff. So those were good for me to go to. We also learned a lot about using survey incentives and why we shouldn't do that in a statewide survey, because our survey got flooded with bots for people who were just looking for that cash incentive to participate. So that was a big aha, learn my lesson moment. So that resulted in us running this needs assessment twice with bot detection and filtering the second time. But with this, we still got pretty good results. As you can see, residents are really just interested across the board in issues next to their home. How can they harden their home? How can they prepare themselves for fire and evacuation, that sort of thing. Whereas resource professionals, they're more concerned with bigger picture, landscape scale, fuel and vegetation management and community planning. But across the board, that's generally what we saw. However, because I live in or work in a more rural, urban, wooey environment, a lot of my residents in Placer and Nevada County, they were also really interested in that vegetation and fuel management. So for me, defining statewide clientele became a little bit challenging because I went through the thought process of, well, everybody in California is potentially touched by fire at some point. So does that mean my whole clientele base is everybody in California? Seems like a lot of people, very hard to really focus and narrow down my extension program. However, I was given some really great advice early on about narrowing down the focus of my programs and really narrowing down the focus of my clientele. And because at the time, a lot of our programming was done in forested environments and a lot of the high fire hazard severity zones were in forested areas, my statewide clientele became the USDA list of small private forest and woodland landowners. I also have another clientele group of fire and natural resource professionals, which is statewide, gathered by my needs assessment, and then also local clientele consisting of residents in high fire hazard severity areas in my 2 counties, as defined by my needs assessment as well. So pretty early on in my career, I got really involved with trainings and such. I do a lot with RCDs, Resource Conservation Districts, prescribed burn associations, CAL FIRE, other organizations on prescribed fire and fuel management trainings. And then I also, again, do a lot in the built environment. So home hardening, defensible space trainings, community preparedness trainings and events. And I will say, I know I'm a little short on time, but working in this space, because I'm not familiar, I approach it with the lens of, I'm a resident who's learning all this for the first time. What are the gaps? What do I need to know? How can I best communicate that, which has been interesting. And then it also has allowed me to interface with non-traditional clientele, I think, for resource management folks. So realtors, contractors, insurance agents, and the like. So that's been interesting to interface with them. And then finally, one thing I really like about extension work and just fire network programming in general is you're really challenged to be creative with how you engage and extend knowledge to clientele. And so I've done things like science on tap or science trivia at local breweries or bars. I've done walking tours in historic districts. I've done field bingo on field tours. And I also do just traditional community presentations as well. And in my last couple seconds, I just want to say I wouldn't be anywhere I am today without the support and encouragement of these folks and many others on screen here. My Fire Network statewide team, my local and regional advisors in our offices, they've really helped me develop and build my program to what it is today. And I will say my last aha moment, if I can, it may seem like when you're doing all these events and you're like reading through the ebook and you're putting things in project board, you might be like, why am I doing this? How does this all make sense and come together? And for me, when I submitted my first merit dossier about 2 years ago, that's when it all came together for me. So like understanding why you gave those presentations you gave, why you wrote the papers you wrote, how you can successfully build a good program, that all comes together when you do that first process. So if you feel a little lost, that's okay, because it will all make sense eventually. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And Natalie is going next. And let me bring up your presentation.
I am Natalie Price, the mid-career advisor, which I don't know about how I feel about. I'm a community nutrition and health advisor in Los Angeles and Orange counties. And I've actually just had my 8-year anniversary this April with A&R, although I have taken about a year and a half total of maternity leaves during that time, so I'm going to say 6.5 years more than 8. But yeah, as a community nutrition and health advisor, I wear a lot of hats. I have a few little logos up here of some of the statewide programs that I work with in my counties. And it's interesting, as thinking about being a community nutrition and health advisor, there's a lot of, because of overseeing a lot of programming, my program might look a little bit different than a lot of other people's, or maybe the same of some people's here. But listening to my colleagues, it's interesting how much there's like differences, but also so many similarities, even though it's a different field. So as the community nutrition and health advisor, I oversee our expanded food and nutrition education program in Los Angeles and Orange County, which is about 6 or 7 staff that I have in that program, a CalFresh Healthy Living program that I started in Los Angeles County, and I'm now currently starting another one in Orange County, and our Orange County Master Food Preserver program, which is one of the largest in the state with 50 volunteers teaching people how to can things in the community. A little bit scary, but they do a fantastic job. So I learned a lot about botulism when I started on this job. And also I'm the chair of the Money Talks work group, which is a financial literacy curriculum that someone left to me. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't ask me how it's going. I had a clicker here. So when I was thinking back to when I developed my program 8 years ago. What I started out with was I didn't know actually what I was doing at all. So if you feel like that, I'm happy to share those experiences. I hadn't heard of really cooperative extension before I started, but beyond Googling it for the interview and trying to learn as much as I could. People kept asking me what my program was, and I just kind of had a blank stare until I finally asked someone, like, what is a program? And they kind of told me, yeah, it's kind of like everything you do. Like, oh, okay. So I did what I called like an internal and an external needs assessment when I was a very new advisor. So I used my startup funds, and I literally kind of traveled to different county offices to talk to my counterparts in those offices and specialists on campus. And so I just emailed folks and said, I'm a new advisor, can I come and talk to you? So I flew up here and went down to San Diego and went over to Riverside and the Bay Area and over to UCLA and to Berkeley and tried to talk to folks in the nutrition or public health departments and really try to understand the body of work that was going on and what an advisor was supposed to be doing and what my colleagues were doing. And that was really super helpful. So if anyone else kind of feels like that, I really recommend it. It really helped me build an internal network of colleagues, kind of hear about things that were going on. And then, of course, also an external needs assessment that you, again, probably already heard a lot about. But I went out into the community. I did one-on-one interviews with folks. I went to a lot of community meetings, and when I'm talking about those similarities, I was kind of thinking of how Clebson said, yeah, sometimes I had to drive 3 hours to meet with one person. Kind of even the same, even though I'm not a farm advisor visiting a farm, sometimes I would hear about a meeting with, across the county and just, kind of go and see what it was about, and sometimes it was like, well, that was probably a little bit of a waste of time, but other times it was like you met some great people and shared some ideas and, started a network with that. So I did a lot of that. Joining a professional society was also a great way to hear about research going on and seeing what was happening, reviewing abstracts, things like that, trying to understand sort of what the academic kind of scene looked like in the areas of my interest. And then finding. One thing I put up there was finding a mentor. I didn't do a great job of that, but I've always kind of wished that I had. So I highly recommend that to folks. So one of my tasks as the mid-career advisor, I'm not going to let that go, is to talk about success in the first 2, 4, and 6 years. When I was thinking about the first 2 years, of course, that needs assessment, I think you have to do the needs assessment, and having just been on the PRC, I will also say it's really great if you describe that needs assessment. You don't have to publish the needs assessment, you don't have to do a super formal needs assessment, but it's really helpful to describe it, to talk about what you did, to talk about what you found, to make that part of how you tell your story and how you justify doing what you're doing is how you got out into the community and how you figured out and chose the projects that you chose. And that can be a large body of your work in your first year. Just going out there and talking to folks and asking those questions and documenting that process and your methodology and your outcomes, that's a good part of what you should be doing in your first year. And if you can describe that, you're doing a great job. Of course, also sort of doing, again, what my colleague said, joining program teams, establishing credibility with your clientele. What else was I going to say about year 2? Starting projects that will build over time. Starting to build that local, focused program in your community that eventually you'll see outcomes for. And if you look in the ebook, it's like document anticipated outcomes. You don't have to have an outcome right away. And even at the even if you look in the associate level, I'm kind of speaking to advisors right now, it still even says, document anticipated outcomes. So, clearly being able to kind of think about what those outcomes are, trying to see the vision in the future, but it doesn't have to be perfect or formed in those first 2 years. And again, I want to emphasize that if you do a needs assessment and you document that well, that's a big part of those first 2 years. as you go into, at least for me, when I went into 3 and 4 years, that was really about sort of building on those projects, going deeper, maybe taking on more projects, sort of realizing more actual outcomes and learning how to document them well, and moving from those anticipated to those actual. And then, moving into year 6, I guess, sort of finishing projects, maximizing projects. So, I kind of thought of in years 1 and 2, you're maybe piloting something, you're trying something out. It can fail, that's okay. You try it, you tweak it, you build upon it, you find maybe an extender who's going to do it and grow it, and then you look at how you can maximize it, which is like share it out broader. If it's a project that you've developed locally, can you share it with someone in another county? Can you write a paper about it? Can you present it at a conference on a poster? How can you take the lessons you learned not only about like how you did it, but what the outcomes were, and spread that out further to really kind of maximize your impact on that and the sort of domains that academic or with clientele that you can kind of share that really broadly. And being on the PRC, I can see really the value of using the ebook to kind of guide you through that step, because that's really what the committee has to evaluate your work and is looking at it through that lens. Like, were they able to demonstrate the things that it says as you move from, through the levels of your program? I'm probably going a little over my 10 minutes here. Another thing I was supposed to talk about was challenges and hurdles. So I put self-doubt as my first thing. Because that was really, I feel like, almost what defined my first year, maybe my first 2 or even 3 years in the role, and was just feeling like I wasn't sure what a program was, what an advisor was really supposed to be doing, how to balance overseeing programs and supervising staff, how to even supervise staff, and how to also do this applied research and creative activity that we're supposed to do. I remember going to meetings and trying to figure out what I could even do. People saying, "So what do you do?" "Well, I do applied research and creative activity." And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, what do you mean? So it was kind of like figuring out what I even had to offer, understanding how to create a balance was a challenge for me. And even now, I feel like I still kind of can struggle with that. Even to this day, sort of figuring out like how to strike that balance. I also put on here just program interruptions, right? I mentioned taking family leave, COVID-19 happening in the middle of things, colleagues retiring and leaving. So, oftentimes you build collaborative projects, you have momentum, something big happens, and it kind of, things can change, or they can end up not working, or things like that happen. I think the key is probably being flexible and just building, realizing that those things can happen and trying to, work around them. And then my biggest one right now is just managing workload. This is such a role. The beauty and the curse of this role is that you get to decide really what you're going to do. And the position I'm in right now is that I said yes to like way too many projects. So I think, being able to say no is probably a really good thing, and especially in the first 2 years, where as I was like riddled with anxiety trying to figure out what I was going to do and if I was doing the right thing, I had another advisor say to me, like, this is the best time. You're in your first 2 years. Like, you don't have to have statewide or national impacts. Your research doesn't have to be like groundbreaking. Like, you can just enjoy being in the community and meeting people and talking to people and getting things started and all the excitement that brings. So like, relax and enjoy this time more than like, panicking all the time, panicking about it. So to finish off our ending thoughts here around the best parts of our job. Despite my initial extreme anxiety when I started this job. I've really grown to love it. I love doing the work that I do that's covers so many different domains, working with folks in the community, getting to teach, getting to learn, getting to work for UC, and getting to support the mission of A&R. It's just all been really rewarding for me. Getting to choose what I work on has been really such a fantastic opportunity to grow and to learn and to be creative. So yeah, I've really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Take the mic. Thank you very much. Let's take a seat. So please join me in thanking our panelists for their very personal stories. Very inspirational to hear about their journey as they started in UC-A&R, and I hope this was a helpful exercise for you to hear how your colleagues have managed with their first year here in their program. So I do have a few questions for our panelists, but I first wanted to open it up to the audience and ask any follow-up questions, any curiosity that you have about our panelists. Please go ahead and ask any questions you have.
Mine is short and so Katie, I saw the map, and there are some white spaces and yellow spaces, and there are some people around, so I was wondering, the counties that are taken out, are the representatives for the yellow spaces or the white spaces? That's question one.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, I guess for the recorded version, she was asking about the map that I showed in my presentation with Fire Network core advisors and staff, and if there are other people in the network in the white spaces. So we do have about 7 core advisors in our main program group. Unfortunately, they can't be based in every single county, but in the absence of those yellow counties where they are based, are a wonderful team of our forestry advisors, our livestock and natural resource advisors, biomass advisors, and others who do work on fire-related projects in other counties that aren't listed on the map. And one cool thing about being a part of a statewide program of experts is if you do want to work on like a local fire-related program in your area, but you don't have a local fire advisor, you can always contact me, and we can always try and send someone down to help you or figure out how we can get some like peer support and mentorship in that area.
And the last one is the needs assessment to the residentials, because I face the same thing. But I didn't understand if you throw out the survey to 1,000 people. Is that what you're saying, out of the whole community is what I want?
Yeah, so the question again was, when doing a statewide needs assessment for residents, how did we get the word out, and how did we decide on like a cap on resident numbers, if I'm correct, understanding correctly? So we didn't have a cap formally, we just happened to get a number close to 1,000. But the way that we did send out the survey is we sent it out through local advisor contact lists. So at the time that we launched the survey, our new fire advisors and myself, we'd been in our counties establishing local contacts for about 2 to 4 months at the time, so we really relied on local existing listservs and contacts that people have made. But we also got to work with strategic communications within A&R, and they helped us, Pam and Mike and Sowie and others helped send out our survey through social media, through local news, all sorts of things. So it was a really cool opportunity to work with them as well.
Any other questions? Okay. Go to Patricia first, and then to Laljit.
This is for any, how do you usually prioritize? How do you figure out what you say no to?
I'm still working on that.
Or I guess maybe alternately, how do you assess your capacity in the future?
To be honest, I still not learn how to say no. One great example, I did not cover veneer, and last week I got an invitation to give a talk, a workshop in, I think, Livermore Valley, in the Bay Area. And I say yes, and I call one of my mentor, John Ron Coroni, because he was the veneer culture advisor. Hey, John, I got an invitation, and I say, yeah, but I don't cover veneer. You have to help me because I want to go, I want to learn, but yeah, sometimes it's hard, and I begin to say no, I guess. But I guess in some point I'm going to learn. I still not that busy, but that's why I still been accept so many stuff. But I will enjoy the challenge and learn different things that I never heard before. Yeah, I think it's for me it's kind of like okay. I never been in my comfort zone, and I probably never gonna be there.
Do you have any? Yeah, you're asking the person who got 4 grants at his first year, so still not quite over that one. I guess I was going to say, I think it's a good question, and it's hard because what I found is, you're thinking about local need in your county, like what do your clientele need, what's going to result in the most benefit to them, but then there's also a lot of statewide opportunities that come up, at least for me with my colleagues across the state, and I often have this question of, am I doing enough local stuff versus stuff that kind of goes across things, and what's going to have the most impact, I think there's a lot of kind of a matrix almost you could make about what goes into that. Like what's going to have a good outcome too, right? Like what are you going to, again, like maximizing that outcome? What are you going to be able to share that's going to, help your clientele, help be able to be relevant to other maybe academics or others, practitioners. But yeah, I think across the board, you're going to find a lot of people who have trouble saying no.
I guess like my last 2 cents on this would be you're just going to have to find out through trial and error, like what works best for you and your working style. So like when I first started, my local mentors also said the same thing, like, wow, we have a really hard time saying no to things. Like be sure to, again, take time in your first 2 years, like Natalie mentioned, to really enjoy being immersed in the community and learning about your surroundings and stuff. For me personally, I know, for example, like if I am doing a talk at night to a community and that lasts until like 9:30, I'm not going to say yes to a meeting that starts, like a public meeting that starts at 8 a.m. the next day. Like building in time for rest and recuperation so you can be there fully and presently is really important.
Great. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
Yeah, this could be for anyone in the panel. So I'm just curious that how would you navigate, or if you came across a situation where your program might be seen or perceived as a competition to the existing programs or to the existing organizations that are doing something similar, where I want to come as a collaborator. How do I say that, with UCNR and all the connections or the resources that we have with UCNR that could be used, but the organization is kind of trying to make money out of some of the stuff that we could do for free, but like there are some things that we try to navigate. So I was just curious that if you have any comments on such kind of situations.
I actually did kind of have that situation. I mean, not where someone was necessarily trying to monetize it, but we have in the nutrition education world, we have often our funding source actually funds multiple organizations to do the same work, and we actually have to literally coordinate like which sites we're at to make sure that no one's stepping on toes. When I first started working in Orange County, there was almost like a hostile vibe when I went to the meetings initially with like, you're at that was my school site and you're teaching nutrition to those kids, but I teach nutrition to those kids, which was sort of strange because it's like, wait a minute. I didn't know we had like marked our territories. But I think that you hit the nail on the head that it's important to come in as a collaborator. So for me, it was just bringing kind of my personality, my kind of really open personality to the table. And instead of being like, these are my sites, it was like, let's meet quarterly and I'll tell you where we are and I'll tell you what curriculum we're using and we'll be really transparent about like exactly what we're doing at all times and where we can promote your program, like give us your flyer and we'll promote it, and then where you can promote ours, like here's our flyer. And that made them feel a lot more like we weren't competing for those sites and that instead we were working together and like, because we were even cross-promoting each other a little bit. And the situation you're describing maybe where someone's like trying to make money out of it, it definitely adds a layer of complexity if you're offering it like a free service that they're trying to make money off of. I haven't specifically had that. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add, but I definitely have had the kind of territorial thing, and good communication was really the key there.
I had a small conflict with one advisor about a year ago, but actually was more misinterpretation because we got a growers that we question, send some pictures with some issues they have on the farm, and he copied me on the message and the advisor that's supposed to cover the field, IPM advisor. And I don't know if he put her number wrong, but she never got the message. But I saw he copied her and me as well. And after probably 1 week late, I decided to respond the question. And I visit the site and I collect sample and I took pictures and I was communicating with the growers. And she finally realized that, and she comes to me a little angry. Hey, this is my responsibility. And I say, okay, but you was copied and you never responded. And she kind of realized she never saw the message before. It was more like a misunderstanding, and actually we worked together on the same project. We kind of put together a project. She's the leader, and we work really close. We do multiple collaboration. It kind of was just a little bit like misunderstanding in the beginning, but I think it was the only situation that I went through. But overall, my program, it's so broadly that if somebody come to me and say, hey, I already work on this field, I'm more than happy to say, okay, take over. I already have so many stuff to do that.
Thank you. Maybe a follow-up comment on maybe conflict of areas. So make sure if you're providing any programming outside of your area to be in touch with those county directors or those advisors in those counties. There's nothing worse than providing programming in an area and they have no clue what's going on. And it's also an expectation you should have if somebody comes into your county region and provides programming and you find out about it afterwards. So try to avoid that. That's an expectation that we all have. Yep.
I have a quick question about the specialists because they're supposed to do the programming for the whole the state. So how do we deal with them? Because sometimes you see them in your area and they haven't said anything.
We had a lot of discussions about employing that network continuum this morning. It's also an expectation that if a CE specialist works in your county, they should notify you, so hopefully you can collaborate. I know it doesn't always happen, but I think that's an expectation you can communicate to campus-based faculty as well.
Okay.
I could probably just.
Oh yeah.
How do, and either any one of you all could answer this question, but how do you balance the priority of, we're talking about like outcomes, so like I can get a greater outcome, and this might even be for you, Clebson, of this commodity-based crop that I could get like a larger outcome of acreage or whatever I'm impacting versus something that's smaller but is helping like a small scale producer who also fits all these other kind of pieces that we are looking for, like low income or some other marginalized community thing, but it's only helping a small subsection of people, but it will have a greater impact for them than it would for somebody who's already kind of doing well off, but they got a lot of acreage. And so like, how did y'all balance ways to like think about that?
So basically I have two very defined programs. One to serve the small growers, like small farm as a small farm advisor, and one to serve the commodity, like pear and walnut growers. That's more like mid and large size. And normally to work with the small farm, I try to talk with them to see what they need. And sometimes it's really hard to do research to provide knowledge for the small farm, depend where you are, especially like in my situation, early career. And I try focus more like an extension activity, help them apply for a grant, guide them to go through some application, be like on the review committee, like for small farm grants, and try like push for my county a little more and show how my growers deserve as well. Like provide like workshop based on the needs. That's my primary focus on my small clientele. For the large growers, I work primarily with the commodity board, like the walnut board and pear board, to see what the needs are, as well with the growers to see what's the problem they have on the area. But normally when you work with the industry, they already have some goals, like thinking a short, mid, and long-term goal. And that's where I focus my research program. Like I have a weed science background, and I do a lot of weed science research. We do have weed resistance on the side. They try to look for program to improve weed management, and that's kind of like stuff that I try to focus my program. And like we have like a new pass as well in pear that showed up a couple of years ago that we never seen before. Worldwide was the first time report. And we try focus on research to try to figure out why happened, why this new pest has changed behavior and attacked the pears that was never seen before. But yeah, we work direct with the commodity board to try solve those problems.
So I want to wrap us up with one final question to all of you. And I think Natalie indicated mentorship, and you mentioned you wished you had engaged maybe a little bit in mentoring. So who did you have as a mentor, and how did that benefit you if you had a mentor?
First. So yeah, I am really fortunate to have many mentors from Cooperative Extension when I first started, and now, obviously, as I'm in my role. So as a benefit of going to a University of California campus, land-grant campus like Berkeley, a lot of Cooperative Extension advisors in forestry came to my classes in undergrad and grad school and like taught and guest lectured. So I got to know them a little bit even when I was a student, and learned more about extension. And I knew pretty early on in my academic journey that this is a place where I wanted to end up. And so some people, specifically your forestry advisor for the Western Sierra, Ricky Satomi, former Plumas forestry advisor, Ryan Tompkins, he mentored me on my master's thesis. And then, of course, at the time, our county director, Dan Macon, and then our Jana Valakovic, Lenya Quinn-Davidson. I could be up here all day listing people, but those folks really helped me in my first 6 months to a year get started in my programming. A lot of them came to my first initial like workshops and events that I did, and they co-hosted them with me to teach me about things like event planning and also just like how to host proper extension events, how to build presence at community meetings. So that was really helpful. And yeah, just being there also for me to talk through problems that I was experiencing or develop research questions, that sort of thing. So definitely benefited a lot from mentorship. But one thing I could say is I wish I participated in ANR's mentorship program. just to learn more about the university in general and get to know other academic coordinators specifically, because when I first started, there wasn't a lot of academic coordinator specific advice or resources. So that's one thing I wish I did.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I sort of said that I didn't really have a formal mentor, and I wish that I had. I feel like even now, many years in, it would still be nice to have one, really. But I kind of joined it at a time when a lot of my colleagues who had more years of experience retired, right? Not super long after I joined. So I'm actually one of the like community nutrition health advisors that has been around the longest at this point. But as I mentioned, I did do that sort of internal need, what I call like an internal needs assessment. So while I didn't have a formal mentor, I really did try to spend a lot of time getting to know my colleagues. And so I did still feel like I had a really great relationship with them and could call folks up if I wasn't sure about something or just wanted someone to bounce ideas off of. So whether or not you have a formal mentor or not, I still think where I've seen advisors have the most success is if they do really work together with colleagues and form those relationships versus ones that are, kind of doing their own thing that you never really hear from or see from. So, I think it would be great to have a mentor, but in the absence of one, still really try to build colleagues, even ones that are, also newer-ish, can be someone to bounce ideas off of or start projects with. And that's great.
Yeah, I also have many mentors. I still have. I was supposed to meet my mentor for lunch today, and I had to cancel. John Roncoroni. He actually is not my formal mentor, but he is helping me since the day when. Actually, before I start, I contacted him, and he emailed me like a couple of weeks before I start my position. I emailed John, and he responded right away, and we have lunch in my first week when I got the job, and he's been my mentor, so on. But I do had a formal mentor. I have like Gene Farrar. He's the statewide IPM advisor, the UC IPM director. Jim was a great mentor for me, but was different. I think the way I decided to choose a mentor was, since I already have like people like John Roncoroni that was a farm advisor, I also got a lot of mentorship from Steve Fenimore and Brad Hansel and other folks. When I decided to choose a formal mentor, I was thinking something that a little different out of my field. Somebody that was more like on the administrative side, that have more insights about like what's going on, laws and regulation in California, what's the direction, because I work a lot of the IPM program. I was interested to know what's the direction, what's the goal they had in a short, medium, long-term goal. And I think it was fantastic work with Jim, because I was able to get a lot of insight, what's going on, how my program could contribute with the IPM program, and it was great. I still talk with him every time I come in the build. I stop in his office and say hi, and we do have a great relationship, and it's great.
Thank you very much. So a couple take-homes here is please reach out, ask for help. You will find people are very willing to support you and help you and mentor you. And then the second one, we do have the formal mentorship program that Natalie mentioned. We will have an in-person event here in about 3 weeks. If you haven't signed up for that mentorship program, but you're still interested in, please send me an email and send it to Jody Azulay as well. We're going to make sure that you can still join us if you haven't signed up for it. And with that, let's give a round of applause for our panelists.